Okay, so we saw Preston Scott Cohen. Oh wow, and he even gets a little Google blurred. Man, that's what I want someday. Okay. Kinds of things that I'm talking about. I mean, guys, you saw like the Oculus, right? Like this thing, right? Now that, I mean, there's not a lot of the kind of smooth kind of blending here, but this is certainly not your kind of standard, like what do I want to call it, like Shotgun House kind of thing, right? This is not the kind of modernist Bauhaus-y kind of stuff that we're known for here. But this is where a lot of aesthetics are going, and I like the discipline that Preston Scott Cohen has, like, because he has a really good understanding of like projected geometry. He has some great modelers, like the way that like one shape like transitions to another shape in a really smooth way. There are sharp angles, but there are these nice transitions, and I would even put Zaha Hadid somewhere in there, although a lot of her stuff is some of it's so generative. Okay, yeah.
What about her like aquatic center?
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like these kinds of gestures that she's creating, I mean, some of this is kind of scripted here. Nothing there, all right. Yeah, I think okay. So like this kind of free flowing kind of form, right? How do we do something like this? Okay. Yeah, the aquatic center. Aquatic. Get to see how badly I spell. Okay. Yes. Okay. So giant potato chip. Pringle. Wow.
Winnipeg State Shelters.
Winnipeg.
It's not Zaha's.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who is that?
Winnipeg Skate Shelters. It's a cover of Chris's book.
Okay. Skate shelter.
Yeah. It's in Canada.
Yeah. Oh, I can't spell. Oh, okay. Yeah, like that. That's a little bit more kind of. It's just pure free form. Yeah, that's actually pretty difficult to pull off. Yeah, I think you guys had a heck of a time modeling that, right? Yeah. So anyway, I think there's a lot of people have kind of mastered curvature in sort of disciplined fluid form. So that's what we wanted to try to be at. That's kind of faceted. That's almost like our little Max piece there, sort of like a geometric modeling. But this kind of folding and pulling, I think, is really nice. The last one is Ali Rahim, which I'm not sure if you guys talk about, but his I think his work shows a lot of discipline. He has these surfaces that flow and they become his like staircase, and just some really, really well crafted.
Is that actually built?
That one is not, but it what happened there? No, hang on a second. He doesn't have a lot of built stuff, to be quite honest, but the models are very, very interesting. So again, the same kind of thing where it flows up and the form of the building, this kind of stuff. What's amazing about it is how long ago he did it. He's doing it in like 2003, so he's pretty good. So anyway, we'll you have the video so you can see some of this stuff, but really high degree of craft in some of these. So anyway, we're going to be talking about that. We won't get there today, but we'll get there eventually. So some of the things that I want to quickly talk about, this is really not well proportioned, but I had a coffee cup on my desk today, so I was thinking about like what to do today. And this is gonna. So I just want to talk about a couple of ideas that are really important in industrial design, and that have to do with really creating really smooth forms. The most important things are the edges. A lot of the stuff that we do in architecture, and especially when we just model digitally, are just these hard, like geometric edges. They come out, they're like polygon edges, right? You can cut yourself on them. In industrial design, though, you have filleted edge, right? So, if you drink out of the edge of your cup, right, it doesn't have a sharp edge. It has a slightly beveled edge. And when pieces like meet other pieces, right, they tend to have like a smooth transition between the piece and the solid. And this is, again, just out of aesthetics, it's just kind of pretty to see that form kind of flow from one form to another. The other thing about it is that it makes it easier to like pop out of a mold. right? And think about the ways a lot of these things have actually been fabricated. Okay, so one of the earliest things that I want to talk about today that I'll get to is actually how to transition from one object to another. So take two sharp things and make them kind of soft, and then also just generally how to get this beveled edge on any edge that you create from any extrusion. Okay, but before I get too far ahead of myself, and that's where we're going with this, but I do want to sort of take a remedial pit stop and talk about curves. Everything that we're going to be working with, and a lot of this stuff starts off with curves. Like, you guys know from our other classes, you take a curve and you extrude it, or you combine it with another curve in a loft, basically, and you get a surface. And you combine it with surfaces and you get a solid. And that's where all this stuff is going. But that means that you really have to be good at making curves. The curves have to match the form that you're trying to make, and they have to line up with each other so that you get the form that you want. Okay, so let's take a stroll through some of the curve tools, and these are basically inside of, let's see, Rhino 5 here. Standard. So if we go into the standard tab, you're going to find all the curve tools, and our bread and butter are usually the of like the polyline kind of like sort, where we're just attempting to draw. If you want to draw a straight line, right, you want to look under your polylines. And the way I pulled this out, guys, I just held down the mouse button and I just pulled this out. Okay, so Rhino is overkill for tools. I think there are so many like very specific tools that you hardly ever really need. So I'm not gonna cover all of them. I'm just gonna cover the most important ones. So, to me, the most important ones that you have to worry about are basically in the front row. So the line tool, polyline tool, which are pretty much very similar, and then this surface normal tool. You guys know about normals, right? If you want to make a line that stands directly out from a particular surface, right? You want a normal. That's actually gonna automatically help you make that. The rest of them are really specific. So anyway, just to draw a line, right, you're going to click in. And if you hold shift, you get a straight line. You guys know that. If you hold shift in other axis, you get a vertical line. Polylines, right, let us click and make multiple. And what's nice about a polyline, right, is that it's treated as one object. Real basic. Okay. So that's, lines, right? Okay. The more interesting part comes when we're talking about curves. Okay. And in curves, I think we talked about this, but we didn't really get to do much of it in second year. So curves in Rhino, these are NURBS, right? And they don't work the way that things normally work. The way we normally think about them. So a control point curve has these control points, and the control point, if I turn on the control points here, you can see that it actually creates sort of like this tangent that these things are drawn from. And so if I move this point, I control the shape of the curve. Okay, it's not the same as drawing like an arc. It's not the same as sketching a curve the way that you might in CAD or in like Illustrator. It doesn't have handles the way that an Illustrator curve does. It's a control point curve. And what's interesting about the control point curves is that you have different sort of curve like degrees. So a curve that has 3 degrees or is a third degree, it takes 3 points to make that curve, right? So there's 1, 2, 3. Okay. If I change that to a 4th degree curve, and let me see if I can snap to these. Yeah. I mean, if I'm looking at some of these things, so you can see there, and I'm just doing my best job to try to make that work here. You move that. Hang on a second here. You can turn off control points by right-clicking that thing. Let's take a look at these side by side here. Oops. So one is the like 4 degree, one is the 3 degree, right? And they're basically the same curve. I mean, the best I could do kind of on the fly here, right? So it takes 4 points, it takes 3 points. The advantage of having the 4 points, right, is that now I have a little bit of additional control on that piece there. Okay, and you can do 5 degree, you can do as many points as you want. Basically, it's the amount of information that takes place to generate that curve between those two like endpoints. Okay, and you say like this is really boring and academic, Nick. Like it doesn't really seem to matter much to me right now. It matters when you're trying to create blends of things together, and they're different control types. Like they have different curve degrees. It also matters because sometimes you need more information in a curve. Okay, so when we look at rebuilding surfaces, rebuilding curves, when you talk about 3rd degree, 4th degree, whatever, that's what we're talking about. Okay, and essentially, I think this works. If I would do, I don't even know if it's going to let me do this. Yeah, if I do a 2 degree. I mean, it's basically only going to give me that much control. I don't have control over that hump. Okay.
Add degrees to it?
Can you add degrees to it? You can rebuild it, Nick. So I can say rebuild, and then you see this thing pops up, and I can say I want this to be 2 points, and I want it to be 5th degree. And now if I turn the points on it, yeah, I have 5. Now I have a 5 degree curve where that was. So Nick, and that's a really good point, Nick, is that I can have a curve in space, and if I rebuild it to, hang on a second, let me turn these off here. If I rebuild it to, and you can see like the tolerance, it has maximum deviation. If I say that I want this one to be, it was a 3 point, I want it to be a 4 point, it's going to show me it's got very little in the way of like deviation. So I can rebuild it as a 4 point, and it's not going to deviate too much from it. And so I rebuild it. And now it's a 4 point. Actually, that one rebuilt as a 5 point. It must have done something. So anyway, yeah, you can rebuild them in place with more or less points, and the computer does the best it can. Okay. Again, this is important. Like, if you guys ever done like lofts, and you get really weird like lofts, like from one section to another. Sometimes it's because there aren't enough control points, or that you don't have the right level of like degrees between them. Like, it makes sense that they need to have the same amount of information from section to section. Otherwise, the computer tries to interpolate it, and the computer is dumb. So you want to be as clear with it as possible. Okay. So the other things I want to. Is there any questions about that stuff? I mean, curves work a little bit differently than we're used to. So you have to kind of understand how the kind of control point curve works. The other thing, so it's actually difficult. Think about, if I had my teacup and you wanted to draw the handle of it, you might have a tough time maybe initially trying to get to match that handle. Another thing you could do is this interpolated curve, which actually makes it so that it always puts a curve that flows through the points that you set. And that is a NURBS curve. Like that actually is, a NURBS curve, but it's generated differently. If I turn on the control points, that's the control point structure that I generated. But I did manipulate the control points, right? I just told the computer that I wanted that curve to go through certain points, which may be really useful for you guys. Like if you're trying to do like a design for something, and you don't know what the curve is going to be, but you know that it has to hit certain points, right? Let's say you're tracing a line on a site, and you have certain like intersections or something like that, right? Let the computer generate it for you. You're going to get these control points after the fact. So that's an interpolated curve. And then lastly, there's a handle curve, which you may know colloquially as a Bezier curve, which is what you're used to from, Illustrator. Okay, so you have the handles on it, and it too though will generate the control. So there are multiple ways of generating a curve, but they're ultimately control point NURBS curves. All right, that's pretty dry stuff, but it's kind of you have to understand that if you want to begin to make these kind of smooth, curvy things. Okay, so we have regular lines, polylines, and curves. The other piece, right, is that is your basic kind of shape geometry. It's like if you wanted to draw a circle for something, right? Why would you ever try to draw it with a curve when you could just draw up a circle, right? So knowing that these primitives exist, you call them primitives because they're just the basic geometry. So you have circles, you have rectangles, gengons, stars, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Because sometimes what you need is what you want to do is you want to start with like a basic shape that you're going to modify. Okay. So don't forget that those exist as well. And arcs, just like AutoCAD, you have all that stuff available to you. Okay, which brings me to another thing that I want to mention, right? Is the fact that you have, just like in AutoCAD, again, you've got all kinds of like editing operations. So if I have different shapes, I can like trim a shape, right? So I have the cutting object, and I can trim out like that piece of the circle with it. Okay, I can do things like fillets, and I can fillet something with a radius of 0. And that'll like actually drop the edges, and I have Pac-Man. Okay, so all the stuff you guys did in like AutoCAD, and then when you've got a series of curves together that you want to make into a shape, you can say join, and now those 3 shapes are joined into one shape. You can offset something, and I think you guys remember this from Rhino before, but I want to remind you guys there's options up here, right? I can change the distance of it. I can change the corner type of it. You can do that by actually mouse clicking on it or by typing the first letter and then changing the command. So the distance here is like, let's make the distance more. Let's make it 2. And then the side I want to offset. So now I've got double Pac-Man. Okay. So I'm not going to spend too much on that, but the big important ones are like offset, fillet, trim, right? The other piece I want to remind you guys about, so I'll review. What's the difference between trim and split? Dakota.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've split.
Oh, come on. Split.
Isn't that for surfaces?
No. It works, actually, we'll talk about this. Trims and splits work for both surfaces and shapes. Amber,
Does trim actually delete something and split just gives you 2 different pieces?
A+, yes. Split will give you the parts. Trim destroys them. And we're about to be reminded, that's actually a good point. Remember in Studio Max I said it's not a destructive modeler. Even when we did our Boolean, right, you still actually had the Booleans like in the parametric assembly. In Rhino, when you like trim something or you Boolean something or whatever, that thing is gone. Like you use it up. Okay? So just remind yourself of that. Make copies of stuff if you need to. Save them on separate layers. Make sure that when you check the options, sometimes those options to like delete the object, make sure that if you're not sure, don't delete the object. Okay? Keep lots of backups of your stuff. Okay, so in that sense though, let's do split. So we say what are the objects you want to split? Let's see. I'm going to split this with this. And so now I get all of the shapes. Okay. And that can be useful for various reasons, okay? But a trim will actually get rid of it. You can also do the other, I can say split, and I want to split this, and I want to use all 4 of these shapes. And so now I actually get every single like permutation of this thing. Okay? Your mileage may vary. Like, I don't know how, depends on how useful those kinds of things are for you, right? But then we can go ahead and we can join all this together. Rhino is really nice because this stuff is, works really well. It's really powerful. And as Dakota said, too, it works on surfaces, which is not very easy to do in Studio Max. Okay? Okay. So that about covers what I wanted. Oh, the other thing, too, guys. Okay. What if I wanted to get those lines back? Like, I joined them together. What if I want to just extract, like, this line, this right here? How do I get that back?
Isn't it like isolate segments or something?
No. Amber, remember? Explode. Who is that? Blake? Nick. Blake. Yeah, explode. Oops, can't spell explode. Kabam. Okay? It's a reversible operation. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here.
I think there's also extract curve.
Extract curve.
Yeah, it does the same thing except it doesn't explode the object.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt. I wouldn't doubt. Extract.
Yeah, it's extract.
Where is it? I'm not
It's
seeing.
in the curve commands and in the
I think isocurve is for services.
extract subcurve.
Subcurve. Oh yeah, and then you can pull out. Okay, good call, Dakota. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I use that one a lot.
And that's the thing too. Like okay, so good. It's a non-destructive way of extracting curves. There are like 400 commands in Rhino. There are so many different ways to skin a cat. Excellent. Okay, cool. So now and then biggity bam. Okay. Yeah. Well, actually, it did undo the thing though. Huh. Anyway, no biggie. There's probably a setting that I didn't check.
Copy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I want to make copies of that. Okay. So yeah. So that is, now we're only drawing curves right now in like one dimension. Okay. Sometimes you want to draw curves in 3 dimensions. Okay. Let me show you something. And we'll do a little bit more of this later, but remember when I said that like Make 2D was kind of a hack, right? That it kind of projects the geometry into a different orientation. Let's say that in like top view, I'm going to draw this curve here, okay? And then in front view, I want to draw, something relatively similar. I'm going to turn this. I'm going to disable this for now. Gotta watch snaps when you're in multiple, viewports here. So I've got a profile in 2 planes. Okay, you can actually do a curve from or there's a 2 view. Yeah, curve 2 views. And that actually creates a hybrid of the 2 in 3-dimensional space. So, we have to draw in 2D, right? Like that's kind of how we think. It's very difficult to like draw very precisely and something like that. Okay? So Rhino has a lot of these tools that are actually hybrids of that allow us to draw in like surface space, kind of allow us to draw in 3D space. Okay? So isn't that cool though? Like in top view it's the curve, and in front view it's the curve, but actually it's that one curve. Very cool. So if you're trying to like draw something, guys, like if you take your photograph of your mouse or something like that, and you're having difficulty getting that exact thing in space, draw it into 2 views and let the computer sort out like what the points are. Okay. There's no. I mean, what else? What other method could you do though to do something to do something similar? Let's say I have these 2 curves. What's the low-tech way for me to make that curve? I have a front view and a top view.
Maybe extrude your curves in perpendicular directions and then intersect them. That'll work.
Extrude them and then intersect them? Okay. Let's give that a shot. This is kind of getting to... And then what's going to happen? Oh, actually, that did work. Okay, so then we do that, and then we'll do intersect. Is that right? How many of you guys think that that's... Yeah. Let's see. That's a good theory, though. It might be pretty close. Let's do the 2 view again and see what we get. Actually, that may be what it does. Actually, there you go. Well done. Well done. So there you go. So in a pinch, if the command like fails you, yeah, doing 2 surfaces and intersecting them is going to get it. Very cool. What's another way? What's a low tech way? That wasn't actually what I was thinking about doing with it, but that works really well. I learned something new. What? What?
Extruded.
Well, we just did something like that. What if I turned on the control points for this one? Give you any ideas? What if I turn on the control points and I look at it in this view? I'm saying I could take that curve that is in one view, and I'm holding the wrong button down here. But I could, I could add more points to it. And actually, it only has more control points. Here's another example why you might need to change the curve degree. But I could pull those points in another view, right? So that I started with them, and they had the same plan view, but I'm changing their the elevation of them, right? Not as good as the other method, but for more complex things, that might actually end up being what you have to do. I mean, it's the more kind of sculptural way of achieving that, in kind of a 3D Max kind of way, right? That's, sometimes you don't know all the commands, and there's kind of chicken and the egg thing where it's like, how do you know what command to find if you don't even know like what the command is called or like how to do it? And so like there we just saw like 3 different ways to do the same thing essentially, right? But some of them take more time than others, right? The easiest one is the 2 view because it takes 1 step. The extrude view is the same output, but it takes like 3 steps. And this one takes a lot of like pushing and pulling, right? But it uses the stuff that you don't need to know any of the other commands, right? Draw 2 lines, move the points, okay? And I am interested in the end of the class, like I want you guys to know the most effective way to do things, and I want you to know all the options, but the whole goal of this is just to be able to do it in the first place. Like if you're stuck on a problem and you're just trying to get it done, how do you just get it done, right? So anyway, so I'm interested in as many different ways as possible of solving the same kinds of problems. Okay, so we've looked at a couple different just quick techniques for making curves. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's see if I can get see how well this works here. I might have to do something else, but Google, you disappoint me. We lose internet. Oh wait, here we go. Awesome. Actually, let's do a rowboat. Too many boats out there. That's pretty good. Top one's pretty good. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Why don't you guys try to get this image here off of Google? Let me, in fact, maybe I can quick post it to Moodle if that's yeah, that's a beautiful image. Okay. I'll see if I can throw this up on Moodle too. You guys can't fast enough here. Yeah, my connection's being pretty slow. Go ahead and download that to your. I'm working on it. Trying to. It's not letting me.
What did you search specifically?
I did rowboat profile. Yeah.
Found it, but it won't let me
Oh, and okay, I'll take care of it. Just pokey internet here. Sorry. Okay, 2 shades. Okay. My Google Foo. Okay, so that works. Okay, it's on Moodle now. If you guys want to grab it, apologies for. Left my key drive at home, so. Okay, we'll give you guys a second to get the bitmap going here. Do you already get it in there? All right.
So move it outside of the field.
You can just turn the grid off too. I just do grid and then just turn grid, show grid no. Is there a way to fade it actually?
It gave me options on board.
Okay, so we can do that. Okay, has everybody got the image? I see a couple of you guys already threw it in there. Okay, so if you go into view, background bitmap, you say place, and then go ahead and grab your bitmap, and it'll say first corner. Just do some arbitrary size. I'm not usually very. And what you can do with it is you can play with the scale of it and stuff later if that interests you. If your grid is showing up and getting in the way, you can just type in grid, and then you can say show grid no. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay, I'll wait for everybody to get that going, and then we'll talk about it. We're not going to do. These are 3 boats, by the way. I don't know if you guys caught that. So don't worry about all 3 of them. Oh, did you insert the view background? Yeah. There's other ways to do it. I'm going to post some stuff this week for you guys, but. So this is kind of the procedure. This is kind of the demonstration of the general procedure that you guys are going to follow. So you'll take photographs of your object. In Photoshop, you'll manipulate them so that they're all the same size, right? You'll have a side view and a front view, okay? And you'll scale them. You probably won't arrange them like this. I think you'll probably want to do each one of them separately, okay? So that you can trace them. But remember, I said this is all about curves. So for this real quick exercise, we're going to practice drawing curves, okay? And then we're going to put these together into just a rough kind of surface. Okay? This is really, really simple, just to get the IS out, okay? What I want you guys to do is trace this section and trace the outline of the boat. Now, what's a way to make this process more efficient for us? What's the form of the boat? Symmetrical. So what does that mean? Yeah, so how much of it do we need to draw? Half of it. Yeah. So draw like half of it, and if you fudge it, then just draw a line and trim it, and then mirror it, and then join that together. So you're going to have one kind of curve here, and one curve here. And guys, what I want you to do actually is I want you to leave this open. Okay, so just draw the bottom of this. Like don't draw the top of that. Okay, it's the section of the boat. And then similarly, I want you guys to go ahead and leave this open as well. Just draw this profile down to the front of the boat. Okay. Remember, use your control point curves That's the task, right? How do you manage that with those wacky CV curves? Okay. Throw up a hand if you're having difficulty with it. Give us, take us about 15 minutes or so. When we're done, let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll finish the surface off. And if you get stuck, you can watch my my efforts. Try to be as precise as possible. I think something that helps is just to do an interpolate curve and maybe draw a line on each of those endpoints. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, and then when you're done, you can go to the background bitmap option and just turn off the bitmap. Marcus, you beat me.
I practiced with React this morning.
No, well, you were working on lab. Oh yeah, totally, man. Yeah. You probably did some of this with. Well, Chris probably taught you.
Yeah, and I did those diagrams for the
So you're like, you got a strong throwing arm at this point. He never taught me.
Yeah, I didn't learn anything until I took digital. I started using Rhino in high school.
There's no Rhino book. I mean, the book that they have. There, I can make $1 million. Write the book. I think O'Neill does so much training, though, there's no point. Nice. That was really good. That's excellent. So everybody's doing stuff. Do you want to smoke?
I don't have any toolbars, and I
So
can't.
it's
better just using it so many
Yeah, you just gotta, you gotta struggle.
There's
That's go back
Go 3 hours staring at the screen going, okay.
And then when you're
You
walking
take
home,
it.
yeah,
Just
I'm
go
going
to the
follow it right now.
Where are you on?
Next time you do it, it'll take 5 minutes.
Yeah. It takes showing you sustainable structures. Sustainable design systems. Using strain
So yeah, I did this.
strain 7,
What?
which is
It was like, no.
a really old program that makes it's like structural models. It's kind of like with robotic sense. Yeah, and so like we would do things in class, and then like I go to the assignment, it takes like 6 hours. I have no idea. No idea. Yeah. It takes like working for Chris.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm not working the book.
Yeah. That's all.
And I have to say, like, what it does, like, sometimes I think about it. Okay? I have that magic. Go ahead. What are you doing, Mike? Not yet. You don't need to do that. That's okay. No, I have everything I do. Yeah, you have what you do. Let's just like break it down. Let's go ahead and if you're done, why don't you go ahead and take your like kind of break here, and then we'll come back and we'll take a look at this. Okay? If you need help, I'll stick around and help.